not everybody needs to go global. Figure out your why. And is the money better, your money, your time, your passion, better spent into your existing business? Then don't go. Folks love to build a business on paper. They love to build a business, build a mock P&L, and say, this is what my business is going to do. And there are so many unpredictables that can be solved for, but unpredictables that folks just completely ignore.
My guest today has helped some of the world's most recognized brands expand globally. Companies like Uber Eats and Disney Plus across more than 100 countries. And she knows that global extension isn't about copying playbooks, but about making hard strategic decisions.
You don't know sometimes what you don't know. If you're entering a new market, so you've got to stay nimble because those decisions will 100% evolve.
Welcome to a new episode of the CEO DNA podcast. My guest today has helped some of the world's most recognized brands expand globally, not by just launching products or services, but by making them culturally relevant in entirely different markets. Today, we will talk about scaling across borders, leadership under complexity, and what most companies get wrong when they try to grow globally. But it's also important for us as entrepreneurs to understand that this is what a global world needs, that we will expand and have to offer our service and products in different countries as well to really be able to scale the business. So I'm super excited to talk to Amber. A big welcome, Amber.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So you work with so many CEOs all over the world.
I do.
What is the good DNA of a CEO for you?
Good DNA of a CEO. I'll say a CEO, particularly that has a global growth mindset, flexibility, adaptability, humility, and also the ability to make a decision and inspire your team to get behind it. And I know we know these things, but it's so important.
So how much security do we need when to take a decision?
You know,
how much percentage should we do? Do you need to 99% or do you need to have?
Yeah, it's
51%.
I would say you need to have strong conviction. Let's say if you're hitting 70%, I'm excited. Now, obviously, let's bar legal risks, but I've worked from startups to a high risk appetite. I've worked for startups and I've worked for companies, big global companies like Disney, where the risk appetite is low. I think too much fear stifles growth. And I think that when you're, done is better than perfect is the startup mantra. Right. And I think if you're scrappy and agile, you can go down on that confidence level.
Very good point. I had the chance to talk to somebody who worked with President Obama, and
Amazing.
He said that they always took decisions when it was only 51%.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Of course, also those 51% was based on the current knowledge you had.
Yep.
So maybe tomorrow, it would have been 51% for the other decision. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so strong to understand that we only can take decisions with the knowledge we have. And at one point we should take decisions. On average, I checked some studies. People take only decisions when they have above 90% certainties. And that's why people have
stuck.
a lot of wishful thinking and actually stuck. True.
I think that's why adaptability is so important because to your point, the decision you make today, you could have all the data to support it. Yeah. And when you go out, especially when we talk about international expansion, you don't know sometimes what you don't know. True. If you're entering a new market. So you've got to stay nimble because those decisions will 100% evolve.
So today you live in Europe, in Holland, but also Netherlands, but also in the US, and you have a consultancy and you speak to help companies expand globally. But how did it all started? So you're from Denver, USA?
I'm from Denver. It is funny. I tell people this all the time. I remember distinctly being 7 years old and the teacher asked everybody what they wanted to do.
Right.
And I said, I want to get paid to see the world.
Oh, wow.
And she said, how? I said, I don't know, but that's what I want to do. And I was always a kid fascinated with culture and watching, I'd watch Lisa Ling out doing journalism in the middle of somewhere and learning about what's happening in the world since I was a child. And so I went to school. I knew I wanted to leave Denver. So at 18, I left. I went to school. outside the state. I went to North Carolina, and then I moved to Atlanta. And it was just progressively taking steps towards every time it was a bigger city and a bigger this and a bigger that. And so, eventually I was in Atlanta. I was working for a big corporation down there, Chick-fil-A. And a friend of mine said, I think you'd be good at Uber. I'm like, Uber? This app I take? This concept of these apps and putting your credit card in apps was really kind of bizarre.
What year was this?
2014,
Okay.
beginning of 14.
Yes.
And so I always joke with people, my boyfriend at the time refused to put his credit card in the app because he was terrified. He was like, you are joining a scam. And so it was unheard of at this time. And we were just evolving and we didn't know if it would stick. And the role was community manager. And he was like, you're so good at people and you're so good at understanding and reading that your emotional intelligence and you're smart, you have marketing, just do it, apply. And it was, it's a fun fact about Uber back in the day. It was 150 people showed up to a happy hour and you had to have your business card. And you speed dated on your own will and met every person that worked at the company. Oh, and if they liked you, they put your card in the left pocket. If they didn't like you, they put it in the right. And then by the end of it, someone got a job interview. And
interesting.
So I was the one hire of this thing. And so literally, right?
So you're very good in happy hours?
Apparently so. So strategic. I was like, I've got to wear a solid color dress. So when they describe me, they can say with one color and these things. But yeah, so nice. Anyways, I started at Uber back in the day and it was just a grind. Yeah. Oh, it was a grind. It was every day. And it was the best grind it could have been because we talk about it now. I just met with colleagues here. Like the early days, Uber, the data rigor that we had to substantiate our decision-making with.
True.
Next level. And so, I was there and from working and growing the market in Atlanta and growing it amongst new audiences, Uber Rides, I then went to Uber Eats. And at the time, Uber Eats was in London and Paris. And my job was to launch.
How was it at the beginning to work for such a company? I mean, now looking back, it all makes sense. Of course, you can connect the dots looking back. Mm-hmm. But Uber was founded in March 2009. Mm-hmm. So it was very fresh when you joined. Mm-hmm. So you still have the speed dating to hire the people. They need to hire, mm-hmm. expansion and grow the market. Then people were thinking, should I give the credit card details? Should I go into a car of a stranger? Yep. Will he really deliver me where I want to? Or, 100%. So it was a bit of a rebelling thought, I think, to work for this disruptor called Uber. Mm-hmm. How was the culture at the beginning?
It was really intense in terms of performance expectations.
So you had clear KPIs every week? They were checking it, or?
I don't know about we didn't have necessarily we had clear KPIs as a market. So as a market, we had clear targets. It was, and my role was in marketing. And so every morning at that time, we'd come in and say, all right, how much did you grow the business last night?
Wow.
But it seems crazy, but we worked really hard. We worked long, but also I know few places that you were allowed to be yourself. And I think that was Uber, part of its magic that people don't talk about. I could come in, I could dress how I normally dress. I could, talk in the vernacular that I speak in. I could do all these things and it was celebrated because our role was to be, and I think this is part of kind of how I even approached international expansion with some of those foundations. Our role at the time at Uber was to be the fabric of every city.
Yes.
So it was celebrated that the New Orleans office did things different than the Atlanta office, than the Boston office. And we championed that and wore that like a badge of honor. And so it was really that integration with them, in figuring out how to culturally integrate that, I watched in real time be very successful. And still some of those principles I take to my practice. So it was definitely, or my current business, I take some of those principles now still. And so it was intense in terms of performance expectations, but because the expectation was so high, the trust was equally as high. Oh, you were unrelentingly trusted to know what's best for your city, make it happen, just support it with some data. And so
I like that. So full ownership on the one hand, but also full responsibility. And I think this always comes with it, with the benefits of deciding and doing it your way, but also owning the outcome. I like that.
And a culture where failure was okay. It
was okay,
loudly okay. If you had the data to support what you thought was right, cool, try it. Because we'd rather experiment, set up an experiment. But we'd rather set up an A/B test, set up an experiment. But we'd rather know what works and collect those insights than be stifled by what you were talking about earlier, the 90%. And so if it failed, postmortem it, send it to everybody so that we learn from your failures. But failure was not frowned upon. It was okay.
So interesting culture.
Yeah.
Then at one point, of course, you have been successful there quite well, and then said, okay, why don't you take Uber Eats and make it international?
You know, it was when I started to have words for the idea that I like to be at the center of the business and I like to be in a growth stage. And so Uber Eats, we had done a really good job in the States. We were scaling. You could tell that probably pretty soon we were going to not need operations in every market. You know, we had scaled. And so the next thing that came was Uber Eats, and that was the shiny new business. And I said, let's go. And so launch, it was Europe, Middle East, Africa was my region. And Uber was only around in London and Paris. And so my job was to go help start the business across our portfolio that we at the time didn't even know yet. We hadn't defined it. But based in Amsterdam, but I was running in and out of markets, helping figure out what's the strategy. At first, leaning towards marketing, because that was my background. But you quickly learn the ops side, you quickly learn the restaurant side, you're doing everything, legal, tax, you know. So it was really great.
Before we go deeper, a quick note. 48% of watching haven't subscribed yet to the CEO DNA podcast. If this show brings you real conversations with real leaders and visionaries, then joining the CEO DNA community helps us to bring even more powerful minds on this show. We don't want ad, we don't chase noise, we build conversations that change how founders and visionaries and people think. So if you want more of that, then please take a second, subscribe, and let's build this movement together.
Yeah.
So where did you then start? What were your first steps in that? They said, okay, so thank you, I should take it now international. So how did you pick a country?
So at the time, that's a good question. So I first joined as strictly a launcher, meaning the kind of strategy and planning team with leadership, they really picked the markets. Yeah. And then we as launchers. I guess
based on growth potential,
all of that.
Yeah.
And so I would go operationally launch it, come up with a strategy.
Right.
But then I inevitably went on the strategy and planning team. And so when you're picking markets, I have a lot of refined thoughts about that now. But, you know, I think what I can say about picking markets and where you should go, it's a really important question. And a lot of folks, I lovingly call it across the board. And I think I see this more in my agency now. Folks love to build a business on paper and the TAM and the internet penetration and all these great metrics that I can pull off of Statista and all the things. They love to build a business, build a mock P&L and say, this is what my business is going to do. And there are so many unpredictables that can be solved for, but unpredictables that folks just completely ignore. And you have to have some kind of experience behind the ear to know how to look behind the window and go, hey, did you think about, you know, the fact that this market likes text messages over emails? That SMS data is going to cost you, add that line. Did you think about like little things like this that are culturally relevant, but they begin to just add up on your P&L. And so I at first, wasn't picking markets, and I ended up going to the strategy and planning team and help kind of sorting through that and figuring out where we should go, where we shouldn't go. And it's a combination of the building the business on the paper plus the going to the market and testing and making sure that you have understand the cultural factors that can change and are my assumptions right and all these things.
Yeah, interesting. So what did you build up before you left Uber, and why did you leave?
Yeah, so I was a part of a lot of launches in this region, Saudi. I definitely helped with the Saudi launch.
So in the Middle East, you did Saudi? Yeah?
In the Middle East, I was on the Saudi team. I did Amsterdam, Milan, Madrid, Warsaw, Kenya, Egypt. So yeah.
So what is your learning that you can give to us and in that when you launch it?
You can't scale everything.
Okay.
But you can scale some things. And so I think having a lot, I think the number one thing that folks want to do and launch, I always say is really sexy. And in the beginning, we're launching in this and it's fun.
Right.
But as your portfolio grows, so does your business. So every new market comes on, and then now that's no longer just this launch phase that's so fun and a little messy. It's the operations of the business. And so you need to really think through, obviously, the longevity of the market, but you also need to think through, I think folks try to optimize really, really soon. And I think that first year, good luck. It would be to your benefit to just scale slowly in terms of processes and this and that. Because when you do that, you're optimizing for your convenience versus what the market needs. And I say that, if I give an example, like if I know a campaign that's running, let's say across 8 markets I have live, say an email campaign, it's running, I know the A/B test, I know it's working, it's doing well. The first thing I'm going to want to do is once this market goes live and, let's say plug and play it. And so what I'm really, I hold pretty strong to, you didn't give a chance to experiment in that market. What you did was say, let's funnel it up into whatever's working. And this market actually has its own identity.
So you need to redefine the product market fit again to make sure it fits.
100%. And I don't think that's with every product, right? When we're talking Uber Eats, it's a 3-sided marketplace. It's pretty complex.
Yeah. So you have been then with Uber almost, let's say, 6 years. When you could tell your younger self when you started at Uber, 6 years before you started, when you exit, what would that be? To be successful, or to what hint would you, if you can tell yourself something? Your
emotional intelligence and ability to connect and interact with people is absolutely your superpower.
Oh, wow.
And I think I didn't have the words for that, but we used to joke, if you're familiar, anybody's familiar with this show, Scandal, Olivia Pope is the one who goes and fixes things. It was a joke that on the strategy and planning team, I was like the Olivia Pope, because I would run down to a market and what's going on there? Can you go check it out? And I'd be able to. And half of that was because of there was such a focus on the business. And again, some of those scale and some of those things. And I mean, let's be clear. Everybody was super smart at Uber. Everybody is just incredible. But where I was able to really add a lot of value and shine in is I could lift the lid on things that weren't optimizing, and they weren't optimizing because they were off culturally. And, I think people think that's sometimes it can get lost in the conversations, but it actually is a huge impact to your bottom line.
Did you have a chance to work also at your time somehow a bit with the founders of Uber?
Not directly with like TK. TK would definitely pop in and out of, calls and things like that for sure.
Yeah.
But not super closely, just because I wasn't in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So they were very accessible, but I wasn't in San Francisco, so more so on calls here and there.
When you heard about TK, like, because now what you hear in the media is that he's like really bully and a strong-minded person. Maybe it needs to be as well if you want to establish such a disruptor, would you say, from somebody who works inside the organization?
This one, I'll tell you off record, I'll skip this one just because I don't know that there's a good way to answer it. But I think TK he was in love with his dream, and his dream and Uber was his child.
But I think it's also so important for all the people listening to understand that sometimes it needs to take a special personality to move things forward in this world. And again, I'm not sure if now he was right or wrong, or what the media communicates is right or wrong and so on. But as I do understand as an entrepreneur that sometimes in different phases of the business, you need to know where you want to go, despite of people say it's not good and so on. No, nice. Then the next step was Disney. So they then I guess hired you. They thought, okay, this lady has emotional intelligence, and on next to that, she can also knows about globalization.
Yeah.
And then they said, why don't you join us?
Yeah, so Disney recruited me. I kind of at the time was like, why is Disney? What am I going to do at Disney? But it was Disney Plus hadn't come about. So I didn't know Disney Plus was even in the works. So it was actually Disney streaming services. And it hadn't launched in the US yet. And they hired me to do international product strategy.
Nice.
Which international product strategy is more of what you were speaking to earlier. With Uber, I was definitely doing a lot of the operations. And then I moved to strategy towards my later part at Uber Eats. Disney was more strategy. And where should we go? And how are we making business cases for that? And what does it look like? What's the MVP?
So they are very strong in defining the strategy, very detailed, and spending
100%.
time and energy on that.
Mm-hmm. And I think a big difference, which I'm really grateful for, just kind of seeing all sides. I joke is my karma in the sense that we were operational from the strategy and planning team, all of that. So I was always asking product to build me something. And I was always getting told no and mad. Like, product, build me this. We can't make it fit the roadmap. Then when I went to Disney, I was on the product team. So it was product strategy. So very different given, it's just a different dynamic. Obviously, your product is more so with licensing and this stuff. So that's the operational part. But product being the tech. How do we make it what should be prioritized on the roadmap? What should we be working on from an international standpoint?
It's interesting. I used to teach at a university business strategy and entrepreneurship for 6 years in Dubai to MBA students. And I always use Disney as an example.
Amazing.
Because in 1957, Walt Disney himself painted his strategy, what he wanted to do on a paper napkin. Probably you saw it. It's like really detailed, and it pretty much turned out that he had this Disneyland, that he had also at one point this comics and so on, and that's good to hear from you as well, that they actually invest a lot of time now in the strategy. How else was the culture different?
Yeah, I think
between the startup, what just established a few years earlier when you joined Uber, compared to Disney, who's like, there.
I think it was a good decision. Disney streaming sat adjacent to the Disney business at the time. And so what it did afford us was the ability to be a lot more nimble. It was a big team. So it was, you're thinking hundreds of people, in the Disney streaming org.
Where they're based?
New York.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there was a small office in Amsterdam. Oh, this office is super special in the sense that a formerly acquired engineering company, acquired multiple times, and then ended up under the Disney umbrella. So those guys it was primarily men at the time when it was acquired, had been working together for years, and they were the first ones to bring the live sports to Europe streaming. And so they had a great experience. So I sat in that office with the engineers, and then most folks were in New York. But different in a sense, much more risk adverse. Disney's a legacy company and has so much, on their reputation. I think when you work at a startup, you get a little bit of forgiveness for being, startups are a little more messy and they're a little more this. And Uber, I think, was we wore it on our sleeves. We were building. And so I think it was new technology. There's going to be some hiccups. Yes. So you get a little bit more bluff. When you have a legacy company, you understand the importance of doing things to that standard of excellence that is part of your research that customers expect from you. They don't expect a Disney to mess up.
How many years did you stay at Disney?
Disney, I was there from 2019 to 23, so 4 years. Mm-hmm.
When you could look back and give yourself an advice, those 4 years at the beginning, what would that be?
The advice from Disney would be more so to myself about environments I thrive in and like. Right. So I think it would be pay attention to what environments you prefer. I think at Uber, you did good work. TK would always say, like, don't spend too much time on your decks. We're not here for decks, put the data down, but I don't need your deck to be 100% formatted right. Like, I want to know what you did, what worked, what didn't, move on, because we're going so fast.
So pretty much it's 51%. So don't be at your desk, go and
Yeah, for sure. And I think so I say that to say, Uber was what my base was, what I understood. And it was such a very agile, nimble culture in the sense of one day you could do Uber Eats, you're going to, or Uber rides, you go to Uber Eats, or one day you're working on comm ops and now you're working in operations. We were fluid in that because the standard of expectation was really high. So everyone was smart. That was table stakes.
Yeah.
I think at Disney, there's a lot more in a big organization like that, navigating the organization. And I don't know, I think looking back, I don't know that I was learning in real time how to navigate such a complex organization.
Right.
And so I think it would be pay attention to what feels the best in terms of types of organizations. Because I think looking back, that might be a bit too big for me to be in-house on. I like the little more agile. I love being consulting because I get to be the agile person outside of the huge org, you know? And so I think listening to that, and then also really, it was a great lesson for me in Disney in truly owning your narrative. We were so close at Uber, people knew your narrative. They saw the work. At Disney, you needed, definitely in a company of that size, you need to for sure polish it, ship it out, and tell everybody.
Nice. And then you said at one point, forget the corporate world.
Yeah.
Let's start your own own company.
Yeah.
And now you help and advise companies, all kind of sizes, or small, medium enterprises, or you have a special.
You know, these first 2 years, I've kind of stayed open into let's see
who comes,
what I like and what comes, what I like. And so I've done the gamut. I've done industries. I will tell you honestly, I was nervous about different industries. Like when I got a fintech client, I was like, oh, can I do fintech? Yes. It is a lot of the same principles. And it is absolutely a lot of the things that I'm grounded in are cross industry, cross size, and having that big corporate mega house, Disney, and then having the more like close team, that startup vibe at Uber, I think really equipped me to know how to navigate.
Did you ever count how many companies approximately you help now to globalize their products and services?
No, I think dozens.
Okay, let's say if you could give one piece of global business advice to every founder or CEO who wants to go go global and international, what would that be?
Understand and stick to your why. And I think that I say that from the standpoint of not everybody needs to go global, but it sounds exciting and it sounds this. But once you enter a new market, and again, it depends on your product, right? I know obviously we were talking recently, obviously at Coke Card, and there may be global may mean turning on the product and having it accessible, like, you know, in an app, you can be global by hitting a switch. To me, I don't consider that intentional international growth or international, like intentionally going international. And so that's a different case. I'm talking about investment on the line, going international. Figure out your why. And is the money better, your money, your time, your passion, better spent into your existing business? Then don't go.
Right.
If you don't want to, yeah.
I so much agree. I had the chance to also actually in the global world to help some of the top companies, 3 of the top 500 to expand their portfolio into different countries and regions. And one thing what I always realize is that you kind of have to keep a global approach to also have synergy effects. We talk about economy of scale and so on. But then have also local footprint.
Absolutely.
And that local footprint includes people on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to really make sure that you understand the local language, the communication channels.
Absolutely.
Like you said, in Europe, they all like WhatsApp. In America, they don't even know what is WhatsApp, or they like to chat on
certainly
on Skype still. I had somebody, or, you know, like...
certainly.
So it's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah. And I so much, I think what separates my agency, because of course you can always go to you can go in market and find a marketing agency that could help you. It was funny. I was actually speaking with someone at the conference, and when she heard my talk, she said, "Oh my gosh, I so resonate with what you're talking about." She said, "I took my product to a new market, to Dubai, and it was a physical product for sale. And she was like, the money I wasted out of my own pocket going to a marketing agency in Dubai, not because the marketing agency wasn't good, but what you need is someone not only who can expand your business and has that local understanding and people on the ground that are trusted and you can use. A role I play with every launch is a translator from the main business as well, because you can't lose sight of that. And so if you don't understand the main business and how
your
it
DNA,
works and your DNA,
yes.
you can't go replicate yourself.
True.
And sometimes when you hire a one-off agency in a market, they are so talented at their local market, but they don't have the business chops to understand how to take that and play that translator.
Talking about Copecard, we had the honor for you also joining us at the conference the last days. I think it was also interesting when I said, let's go international. People were a bit scared of it. They said, oh, I'm not sure, for a software as a service company. And then, Michael, you want to go into the red ocean to America, because you have already many of maybe similar players that argue. But then finding, I think, your niche and targeting very, very niche at the beginning, I think is one learning I had. Next to that, and I also looked at it at university, I looked at so many different other businesses. For example, when IKEA went from Europe to USA, everybody said, whoa, perfect. They will be perfect because they own the European market, It's actually funny, you go to IKEA, you buy actually not a furniture, you buy a box, you go home, you have this pre-Christmas experience with trying to fit it together. One screw is missing, and then you say, okay, anyhow, it's the product life cycle is 12 months, so it's fine if it's a bit shaky. And then they said, okay, we go to America, it must work easily. But then what they learned is that they messed it fully up. So they really failed at the beginning when IKEA came to America. And they said, well, I don't know, the product life cycle and the, in every value chain, in every step of the product value chain, they really own the knowledge. And then they set it up exactly like they did in back home in Sweden and in Europe. And later on, they found out that they took too much from there. That means, for example, the cup sizes, the bed sizes were always European sizes. Oh, yeah,
of course.
But when you go to America, I think you guys have more ice in a drink than actually the drink, right? In Europe, you get 2 ice groups when you ask for a Coke with ice, for example. And so little things really had to change the whole perspective. And once they did this with local people, even in the production, but as you said, it needs to be a mix at the end of the day.
And it has to be, and I mean, even those things, and we always talk about it this way myself too, because they're little things.
Yes.
But how expensive is it that you've just now ordered all of this product that doesn't even meet the consumer's needs? And so you're just churning and spending money. And so I definitely hear with that. And I think one thing to add to what you're saying is, I think it's scary because most people, when people are afraid of international expansion at the beginning and that, I think a lot of the fear is because you think international expansion and you think the big markets, America and all of Europe and, oh my gosh, I have to go to Dubai or there's so many places you can go. And so what is internet? I always think it's your why. I go back to that. And I always start with clients with a market assessment, but before that, launch narrative. What are you trying to achieve? What level of effort do you want to put in? There's a world, if you have a German country, you're probably getting a lot of spillover into Austria by nature of language.
Yes.
Okay.
Switzerland
it's pretty
as well.
Similar.
Yeah.
Switzerland, yeah. So, okay, what are we doing to make sure that that's as effective as possible?
True.
That's international.
Yeah.
Or, I'm seeing it work in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I might want to do another block of markets like this in Europe. So maybe I do Portugal, Spain, different languages, but culturally a lot of similarities that I could also copy. And, I have a not one-to-one copy, but I have a family of markets now I'm going after. When I think it's very scary when I say, okay, I'm going to go to America. Okay, but geography in America is European countries are as diverse as states in America.
True,
so
of course, but also for somebody from Europe would say, okay, America, I have so many people living there, almost 400 million, and then so many more speaking English. So I can also maybe take Australia, Canada, and so on. So it's very interesting or very sexy for an entrepreneur 100%. To go into this market. 100%.
And I think that's that's the building a business on paper. there's 350 million people that,
but you have to still win state by state. That was also what I learned. You really have to kind of win state by state and sometimes have different approaches.
100%.
But I think it's super interesting, even for us now in the payment area, to see, okay, they like, okay, credit cards, everyone in the US likes, but you have then again credit cards for different regions. You have also pay-per-use models differently, buy now, pay later options. So it's quite interesting.
100%. You're looking at all of the different variables, plus the data is table stakes. So I'm not talking a lot about data right now because it's a given. You need to know it inside and out, but the layer on top.
So in your experience, what is now the easiest market to enter and why?
Absolutely not one.
I like
because absolutely not one. I can say that easily. Again, I think this is the aha moment I have with clients is when we do what's your narrative? So I'm going to stick to this. And it's, maybe it's, I want to go public. I want to get acquired. I want to be first to market. Okay, we'll take anything. There's no wrong answer here. But who are you and what are you looking to do? And from there, then we assess markets not on blanket TAM.
I like that. So really look at your end goal and then go back to how do we reach there.
100%.
I think that's very important.
And the other layer of what do you currently offer and what's the gap between you could actually even work here.
Yes.
So maybe right now you don't have resources to start funneling out new product features.
It was interesting. I had the chance to work for Daimler Chrysler at this time, 2.5 years in a project. And I was an external consultant actually when they split up. And I never understood. I said, look, they're Germans, they're Americans. They both drive on the right side of the street. That must work. I never understood. And now they hired me to run something called the project management office to know you take it a bit apart. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And then I were a lot of time in Stuttgart in the head office from Daimler. And I went to Chrysler. And I remember having a meeting and the guys came in with popcorn and me with a tie, that was like... like, okay. And hey, Mark, what's up? And I realized, okay, this is a bit different. And later when we discussed about how long a quality item should last, so I think at Chrysler it was quite clear. They said, okay, how long do we offer the warranty and guarantee? Like one day after is fine. And then I talked to the Daimler colleague and he said, this should be a lifelong. I put my signature on it. This thing should run from after me.
Consumer expectation all the way different.
So I said, okay. I said, and now it's interesting what you said. It's in the details.
It's in the details.
And I said, okay, guys, how do I get now something alignment here? And what is a simple cultural tip that has the biggest impact on international success?
I would say the tip that has a lot of impact is spend as much time there as possible.
Yes.
Wherever you want to go. And I think it sounds basic, but a lot of folks do the fly in, fly out, fly in. No, immerse yourself. I mean, start watching movies, start ordering online, start experiencing the apps that are similar or the products that are similar. I give you just talking about what we just mentioned about like, what is the layer added on of what's going to be the requirement for you to adapt to go there, not just culturally, but functionally, like at your core of what you're offering. A great example, any streaming service, there's law, and any streaming service in South Korea is required to verify your age before you access any content. Right. So you must be 19 years old. You must verify that through, usually cell phone subscriptions, etc. It is a huge uptick to add something like that. But you have to have it. So I would have known that if I was spending time in market and on YouTube and on this and on that. Like these are things that you learn and inadvertently start to get a feel on when you're spending time.
You're already here. Let's build this relationship. If you're still watching, there's a reason. You're not here for the noise. You're here for the real story. So join us properly, subscribe. Let's stay close and let's grow this conversation and this group together.
What helped me a lot as well is spending time with local customers.
Absolutely.
So I almost actually were at lots of places at their homes.
Yes.
But in our industry, they sometimes do something called masterminds, where you actually come together and just spending there and sitting there and say, okay, what's your business process? And then you find out very fast something what you need to adapt and something what you can offer, what's actually a true benefit in the market, what they don't have a gap. Yes, right.
For sure. I don't think, and I think also maybe going back to what's the thought around international launch is certainly, it is not just about your company growing. You must remind yourself with each market, you have to assess what value am I adding?
Yes.
And a lot of times that value may not be the same as your home market. So,
and I mean, also so many things already existing, right? When we're talking about going to Dubai, going to America and also Europe, I mean, welcome with a new product.
Yeah,
oh, yes,
literally.
let's go for it. No, it's not really like that. So you really have to find a new...
You are here to serve the
niche,
consumers.
to new, exactly, to see how can we make it time more efficient, cheaper, or offer a better quality. I think one of those three things normally always come up.
Totally.
Amber, it has been an honor to talk to you. Thank you for
so
many
much.
nuggets. I know so many people are dying to bring their product and service into the global world.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it's very important today.
Totally.
Because, I mean, we now order something online and then I see, oh, it actually came from America. I actually, ordered something in Dubai, had no idea they actually shipped it from America. So it became very global and cross-border wise. But still, I think we as entrepreneurs need to think, well, what's my end goal? And I think that's something what we learned from you today.
Yes, I think just a couple things I'd leave it with is it's cheaper to do it right than to fix a mistake.
Yes,
so remember
sure.
that. And then also, it's only going to get more important as I think what I'm seeing is consumer expectations of knowing them and speaking to them globally is going up, but the mindset necessarily hasn't caught up yet. So as a consumer, I don't expect you to miss my cultural cues. It's maybe 10 years ago, I understand you were a foreign brand. It's okay. But that just isn't the case. So yeah, I'm excited for what the next couple of years holds because I think more and more people will continue to go abroad.
I'm excited for it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Highly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before you go, a quick note to all the entrepreneurial listeners out there. If you're looking for a reliable and efficient way to scale your online business and payments, I highly recommend checking out Copecard.com. It's designed to streamline your processes from payment processing to customer management, all in one platform. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale up, Copecard provides the tools you need to succeed. Visit Copecard.com today and see how it can transform your business operations. Dive in and start optimizing your sales processes now.